I'm Amy Zawi with the Jerusalem Connection Red Alert Report for July 22nd. What's with the cancel culture? Cancel everyone except anti-Semites? Recently, I've had several meetings and exchanges of vantage points with Christians and Jews and folks in Israel, folks in rural America, folks in Europe, and folks in North American cities, including Toronto, New York, and Los Angeles. Clearly, anti-Semitism has been a problem for millennia, and I personally have been reporting on it and its alarming trends for about 10 years now. And yet, in recent months, the COVID and civil unrest surrounding race issues in America and elsewhere has presented an even greater uptick in anti-Semitism, so much so that it appears to be normalized, accepted, and even celebrated. Ben Shapiro recently noted in his podcast that anti-Semitism is the last allowed form of hate. However, I would add to that notion that bashing the Christians is also completely acceptable among the woke and social justice crowds and the progressive and secular left. We have seen the organization of Black Lives Matter and other affiliated so-called social justice groups, or rioters on their behalf, desecrate and destroy both Jewish and Christian properties, including houses of worship and cemeteries. As well, a Christian priest was beat up just recently in D.C. merely for being white and a Christian. Jews are continually beat up and violently attacked on the streets of New York and L.A. and even Toronto, and we've seen this in Paris and more. In the Chaz Chop zone of Seattle, a man was beat up simply for preaching Jesus. Amazingly, Muslim members of these protests freely take time out of that busy schedule to pray. And no Islamic properties have been vandalized, at least that I've been made aware of. And I have seen during these riots, videotapes of these riots, those rioters take a break for their Muslim prayer time. And that's observable. But there is no great outpour or even basic news coverage of outrage when innocent people of any faith are killed or injured or property is vandalized by those who riot and destroy, all in the name of peace and justice. We have seen celebrities such as Chelsea Handler, the American comedian, praise the avowed anti-Semitic and Nation of Islam founder Louis Farrakhan. And she noted that she had a lot to learn from him in her basic apology for being white. She also excused Farrakhan's anti-Semitism as perhaps the construct of his own struggles and experiences growing up as a black man. Moreover, there's other excuses we'll get to in a moment. Anyone who has spent even one high school social studies unit on Martin Luther King Jr. and the civil rights era would know, if they had a decent teacher, that Jews in the African American community had a special solidarity during that time. Remember, the Jews were only 20 years out of the hand of oppression that was unlike history has ever seen. Just 20 years out of that genocide. And their history of enslavement and struggle and persecution and prejudice predates the U.S. slave trade by centuries. Nick Cannon, another U.S. celebrity, a musician, and a TV show host, also an African-American man, also was recently praising Farrakhan on his podcast outlet. Philadelphia Eagles football player Deshaun Jackson was another who posted hateful quotes attributed to Hitler and other people praising champions of lies and deceit about Jewish people, and of course praising Farrakhan. Cannon and others deny and dismiss their anti-Semitism as, like I said, merely being one's own struggle and experiences from their own background, or, this is new, they cannot possibly be anti-Semitic because they are indeed the true Semitic people, the true Hebrews. On July 13th, in the Jerusalem Post, an article reported that Nick Cannon propagated anti-Semitic conspiracy theories in his podcast. As I said, his excuse is that it was not hate speech because he is indeed Semitic himself, and as a black person, they are the true Hebrews. On this particular podcast, Nick hosted a former rap group member of Public Enemy who was kicked out of that rap group in '89 for his anti-Semitic remarks made to the Washington Times, one Richard Griffin, and that he has espoused repeatedly that, quote, the majority of wickedness that goes on across the globe is the fault of the Jews. In this podcast, originally actually recorded in 2019 but recently reposted, the two go on to discuss that the black people and the black languages are indeed the true Semitic peoples and have nothing to do with white people. That the anti-Semitic label attributed to them is just a tool to silence their criticism. I'm not sure where these two went to high school or if they've attended any colleges or took any basic anthropology or history courses, but these assertions are quickly defuncted. As well, in their podcast, they were praising Farrakhan and his theories, and they were just espousing nothing but hate for Jews, who, by the way, come in every skin color in the spectrum of human skin color. And it was an open discrimination against white people in general. Now, Deshaun Jackson, the NFL's Philadelphia Eagles player, posted on his social media outlets 2 days in a row quotes attributed to Hitler and praise of Louis Farrakhan. The post had basically a vanilla reaction from the NFL as a whole, discrediting it, and it was eventually followed by an apology. But Zach Banner, a player for the Pittsburgh Steelers, took to his own devices to speak out against the fellow player to express the amount of angst and turmoil Deshaun's post caused him personally. Remember, Pittsburgh was the location of the Tree of Life synagogue massacre that happened not even 2 years ago. Zach took the Steelers logo and included the Star of David in the top gold emblem position and then tagged it Stronger Than Hate. Zach Banner is himself both of African American descent and of Jewish heritage, and he has several practicing Jewish family members. Deshaun did eventually apologize, but something he may have been pressured into, considering both the owner and the general manager of his team are actually Jewish. Moreover, after these two consecutive anti-Semitic posts were revealed to him as being not so good, Deshaun apologized for unintentionally hurting the Jewish community, and then he admitted he was ill-informed about the sensitivities that people have about the Holocaust. I'm not sure who to blame on this one. The school system? The community at large, perhaps? Maybe all the people normalizing anti-Semitic rhetoric, including U.S. Congresswomen? Often people feign ignorance when they are called out on their intolerant and hateful speech and discriminatory actions against Jews or Israel. But I don't know how anybody can be that ignorant and be so successful in life. Keep in mind, some celebrities and business people are being canceled. They're being boycotted by loud and vocal leftists and social media influences for the slightest infraction and possible insult, such as thanking the U.S. president, waving an American flag, or noting that maybe only girls should be on girls' athletic teams. Vocal and outspoken anti-Semitic rhetoric is accepted and excused if not celebrated. But I say that we do not crouch to this sentiment of canceling people, to destroy careers and employers and the jobs they provide, to destroy families, all because we disagree. My greatest joy would be for these haters to be educated and enlightened and change their hearts. Oh, what a testimony that would be. We have had this happen more times than I can list right now, but people such as Waleed Shabat and Dr. Jason Hill. Another example, I'd rather see vocal opponents of Israel and haters of Jews repent and see the light and recant their prior ideas and then share with the world when they find the truth. For me, this is a very effective way to continue to educate and enlighten those who are being swayed by the various false narratives, as well as the celebrity bling and the bandwagon social justice. As far as schools go, the malpractice of education is creeping far into higher education. At Yale, for example, among other Ivy Leagues, at least 5 U.S. Congress members are now calling for officials' investigations for Title IX violations regarding universities and their faculties who are openly promoting BDS activities, which violates anti-discrimination rules. Ben Shapiro, among others, including myself, have said time and time again, anti-Semitism is the only acceptable form of hate and intolerance that seems to be tolerated. However, I would add that the bashing of Christians is right up there alongside it. However, I do want to point out that historically, the longest enduring culture on this planet who has preserved its language, its history, its religion, and even its geographical parameters or appointments, that longevity and cohesiveness prize goes to the Jews. And yet they endure generation after generation despite constant persecution, diaspora, attack, attempted genocide, the list goes on. This should clue us in on God's hand and will for the Jews and Israel. Please keep Israel and the Jewish people in your prayers and God's will for all of us in our steps and actions. Shavua Tov, and have a great week.